get right to it, into chapter 2. Avot Vov Dalet, or Avot 2:4. He used to say, do God's will as you would do your own will, so that He may do your will as if it were His. Sacrifice your will for the sake of His will, so that He may undo the will of others before yours. Avot Vav Dalet. Hu Hoyamer, he used to say, I say, Rutzvono, Kitzvonoch. Do His will as if it was yours. Kadei Sheya'aseh, so that Rutzvonon Kotzvono, so that He may do your will as if it were His own will. Hua Yamer, he used to say, Osei Rutzvono Kotzvonoch, Kadei Sheya'aseh Rutzvonon Kitzavono. Do His will as if it was yours, so that He may do your will as if it were His will. Vital Rutzvono, Mipnei Rutzvono, cancel your will before His will. Vital Rutzvono, Mifnei Rutzvono, cancel your will before His will. Vital Rutzvono, Mipnei Rutzvono, Kidei Shiavatel Rutzvon Acherim Mipnei Rutzvonon Rutzvonoch. Cancel your will before His will, so that He may cancel the will of others before your will. Hillel Omer, and Hillel said, this is really interesting. Hillel Omer, Al Tifrish Min Chatzibur. Don't withdraw from the community. Hillel Omer, Hillel says, Al Tiprosh Min Chatzibur. Don't remove yourself from the community. Vial Ta'amein, and don't trust in yourself. Vial Tadin, Es Haverach Ad Shitagia Lim Komo. Don't trust in yourself until the day of death. Till the day of death. V'al Tamar Devor. V'al Tamar Devor She'i Efshor Lishmo Shesofo Lichshomaya. And don't say anything which can't be understood, on the assumption that eventually it's going to be understood. And he goes on to say, Viel Teomer, don't say this. Viel Tomar, don't say this. Lichshe'epuneh Eshnech. Shemalo Tipona. And don't ever say that when I have time I'll study, because you might never have the time. Let's look at that again. The Altomar, don't ever say this. L'che'epona eshna. Don't ever say when I have time I'm going to study. Shemalo tifna. Because you might never have the time to study. So let's take a closer look. Hu Yomer, he used to say, Asay rotzvono pirtzonecha, kadei shi'aseh rotzvonecha, kirtzvono, bitel rotzvonecha, mipnei rotzvono, kadei sheyavatel rotzvon acharim mipnei rotzvonecha. He used to say, do God's will as you would do your own will, so that he may do your will as if it were his, and sacrifice your will for the sake of his will, so that he may undo the will of others before yours. Now we'll take a look at the Mishnah commentary. The Mishnah opens with further statements by Rabban Gamliel, and then it returns to offer additional teachings of Hillel the elder until Mishnah 7, which links up with Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, along with Hillel, from whom he received the Torah. This is a really terrific, great Mishnah passage. Ram Gamliel, the son of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, said, do his will, the will of the Almighty, by studying Torah and fulfilling his commandments, as if it were your will, as devotedly and eagerly as if prompted by your own heart, so that he, the Lord, may do your will to fulfill the wishes of your own heart, as if it were his own will, in keeping with his constant desire to benefit his creatures and the world around him. Alternatively, let's take a look at this. Alternatively, we have Yaseh Rotzvonocha, Sheyaseh Rotzvonocha Kirtzvano, and sacrifice your will for the sake of his will. It's interpreted so that he may Yaseh Rotzvonecha Kortzvano is interpreted as so that he may render your will as if it were his own will, as if it were the Lord's will, which enables you to attain harmony between God's will and yours, between the divine will and your own will. You should do God's will as if it were your own will, according to this Mishnah tract, and spend your resources on religious causes as liberally as if they were your own causes. That's very important, so that God can do your will as if it were his own will, and bestow upon you the goodness and the grace of God. Batel, but you should cancel your will before his will. What this refers to is a positive commandment, and here we're more or less bidden to observe the negative commandments, or the Tosefot Yom Tov, bad commandments, not good. When tempted to commit a sin, you should cancel your will before the will of the Lord, because the will of God would forbid us to act in such a manner. This is important so that God can cancel the will of others before our own will, and frustrate any of the evil that's the design of our enemies or our adversaries. Proverbs 16 says, Proverbs 16:7 says that when the ways of a man please the Lord, he makes even his enemies live in peace with him. Alternatively, the will of others is seen as a respectful allusion to God, who graciously, as it were, renounced his will to please his servants. Otherwise, whoever fulfills a precept as it is spelled out, even if God has passed a decree against him, God annuls it. Hillel also said, Hillel Omar, don't withdraw from your community. Don't withdraw from the community. Very important. But share the public sorrows of the community along with our fellow man. When Israel dwells in sorrow, and a Jew dissociates himself from them, the two ministering angels who accompany man lay their hands on his head and say, "This man who detached himself from the community shall not witness the consolation of the community." In other words, if you detach yourself, then you won't be able to experience the joy that comes when we all do good.